a cashier who works at a grocery store, was experiencing a peaceful day at the register when he was directed to a young mother who was struggling financially. He was unaware that his act of compassion would have unanticipated repercussions. On the following day, a helicopter would land in close to his apartment, disclosing complexities about his mother that would challenge his preconceived notions. Greetings, and thank you for visiting Seeds of Rose. Be prepared for a narrative that is replete with unexpected diversions and uplifting revelations. Ben, who was in the early stages of his cashier position, was preoccupied with the task at hand when his attention was attracted to an adolescent mother who was loitering in the infant aisle. Her expression was a tidal wave of anxiety as she cradled her neonate closely against her bosom. The young woman's attention alternated between two essential items: infant formula and nappies. She tentatively approached the diapers, her fingertips quivering as they touched the packaging. However, her focus quickly shifted to the formula, and her hesitation caused a furrow in her brow. She was paralyzed by the tension between sacrifice and necessity. Ultimately, she exhaled deeply, settling on the formula and releasing the diapers with a final despondent caress before turning toward the register. As she moved, the weight of her unspoken struggles caused her shoulders to slump. Ben attentively observed her from behind the counter. He was able to comprehend her situation without the need for words. Her silence was sufficient. She appeared to be evading attention as she approached, cradling the infant and depositing the can of formula on the counter with quivering hands. Her eyes fell. Ben examined the formula, but he observed her sustained attention on the diapers, a silent yearning that was apparent in her eyes. It was excruciatingly evident that her financial circumstances did not allow her to purchase both items. "Is it simply the formula?" he inquired tenderly, taking care not to arouse her. She nodded, her gaze diverting from him. He permitted his hand to float above the counter while taking a deep inhalation. He said, gently gesturing toward the alluring package in her cart, "You forgot the diapers." She swiftly responded, I can't," as panic erupted in her expression. Ben handed her the diapers with an unwavering compassion. Without hesitation, reaching into his pocket, removing his wallet, and swiping his card. "Receive them. You are permitted to reimburse me at your discretion." Her lips parted in astonishment, and she was unable to articulate her thoughts as tears welled up in her eyes. She was momentarily overcome, able to utter only a murmured "thank you" as she clutched the diapers. They were a silent response to her petitions, affirming that compassion continued to thrive even in the darkest of times. To her, those diapers represented hope encapsulated in plush packaging. Ben's gaze was unwavering and encouraging as he nodded. As she departed, he offered a gentle reminder to take care of your little one. Nevertheless, the ambience changed when murmurs erupted from behind her. The discontent was disseminated by a chorus of disapproving customers, whose gazes were penetrating. One man, with his arms crossed, complained, "Do you believe that is equitable?" The man was directing his anger toward Ben. "You have recently distributed free products," a woman exclaimed. "This is a store, not a charity." Her head shook in disbelief. Free items should not be distributed to individuals. What type of location permits that? Ben felt tension hold him as their voices ascended, his fingertips constricting around the register. The small gathering's expressions, which varied from bewilderment to annoyance, caused his heartbeat to accelerate as he peered up. None of them comprehended the gravity of the moment he had just shared with the young mother. As he prepared to defend himself, he was unable to articulate his thoughts due to the weight of the store policies that hovered over him. Mr. Carter, the store manager, emerged with a pensive expression, just as uncertainty began to dissipate. Ben was seated across from Mr. Carter in his office later that evening, and the tension in the air was palpable. Mr. Carter's voice was composed as he stated, "I was informed of the events that transpired today. You violated the store's policy by giving away merchandise. We are unable to tolerate your failure to adhere to the established procedure. I regret to inform you that I will be compelled to part ways." Ben's stomach dropped as he nodded, the argument fading on his lips. He had acted out of compassion. However, the policy was unyielding and did not allow for any exceptions. Ben turned to depart as Mr. Carter presented him with his final salary. and their handshake felt like an unwelcome conclusion. Ben retrieved his notebook that evening and, in the dim light of the lamp, poured his aspirations and ideas onto the page in the seclusion of his apartment. Local cafes, retail positions, and a variety of delivery gigs, anything could occupy the void that was now his existence. He reminded himself that a job search was imminent, and self-pity had no place in his universe. However, the magnitude of tomorrow's uncertainty exceeded his expectations as anxiety enveloped him. He was soon overcome by exhaustion and fell into a restless slumber, unaware of the unexpected turn of events that would await him in the morning. The sound of a low, rhythmic murmur startled him awake, gradually increasing in volume and urgency. In place of his alarm, he shuffled to the window, pausing at the sight of an exquisite black helicopter descending into the parking lot behind his building. The helicopter's arrival roused curiosity and dust among the neighbors who were gazing out of their windows. He rubbed his eyes and shuffled to the window. An abrupt knock on his door caused his pulse to race before he could completely comprehend the surreal scene. He cautiously opened the door to discover two men in dark suits standing in the hall before him. One of them inquired, his tone being both serene and firm, "Who is Ben Foster?" Ben responded, his expression betraying his confusion. Yeah." The individual who was taller extended his hand. "Good morning, Mr. Foster. My name is William, and this is my colleague, Daniels. We are present on behalf of Mr. Harris." Ben was struck by the name like electricity, and confusion once more overtook him. "Wait, do you mean Mr. Harris? The billionaire, the tech tycoon, and the individual who possesses half of the downtown real estate?" William smiled as he nodded. "That is the one." Ben's mind was in a state of tumult as he endeavored to establish a connection. What is the reason for an individual such as Mr. Harris to desire any form of interaction with him? William initiated the conversation by stating, "We must inquire about something. Did you provide assistance to a young mother at your store yesterday?" Ben was taken aback by the sudden realization. "Yes, I assisted her. Is she in good health?" William responded with a reassuring tone. "She is safe and well. However, are you aware that she is the daughter of Mr. Harris?" Ben's irises broadened in incredulity. "Is she his daughter? Are you informing me that she is truly his daughter?" The surreal news was confirmed by William's nodding. This frenzied young woman, who was unable to finance the essentials, was connected to a man whose wealth could span continents. It all seemed so inconceivable. What was the cause of her dire circumstances? William hesitated, selecting his words with caution. "This is a family matter, and it is complex. Even within the Harris family, circumstances are not always as they appear." Daniels, who had maintained his silence until this moment, intervened, his voice remaining composed yet focused. "Mr. Harris wishes to express his gratitude in person. He will provide a comprehensive account of his daughter and their circumstances." Ben hesitated, his curiosity and anxiety competing for his attention. However, the compulsion to ascertain the truth became inexorable as William gestured toward the helicopter that was awaiting outside. He followed them into the vehicle with a nod, the rumble of the propellers reverberating around him as they took off. Neighbors watched with open eyes, their expressions a mix of interest and incredulity. They soon touched down gently on the helipad of the expansive estate. Ben exited the building, his attention directed toward the grandiose surroundings. However, there was only one individual who was anticipating his arrival. Mr. Harris approached him, offering a cordial handshake and impeccably dressed. "I am grateful for your attendance," he expressed with sincerity. "Certainly. But what is the purpose of this?" Ben continued to struggle with the situation. Murmuring, Harris's demeanor softened, and his eyes were a reflection of gratitude tempered with sorrow. "It pertains to my daughter, the individual you assisted yesterday. You are unaware of the significance that this had for both her and me." Ben was invited to sit down by Harris, who gestured toward a nearby settee. Mr. Harris's composure was steady, yet it was tinged with emotion. As they settled, he took a deep breath. She made a mistake, a poor decision. In fact, she placed her faith in the incorrect individual, a young man named John who was an acquaintance of hers in high school. At first, He appeared to be supportive and endearing. However, it was later revealed that his primary objective was to acquire her connections and the advantages her family offered. Ben's concern for Maria intensified as he listened attentively. Harris's regret was palpable as he continued. They initiated a relationship. She was convinced that she was making the right decision, and she even turned her back on her family to be with him, despite my warnings. However, reality is not always benevolent. He paused and tightly clasped his hands. She became pregnant. John feigned to be a supportive partner for a period of time. However, when the reality of fatherhood became apparent, he distanced himself, making justifications, and ultimately departing without a word. Ben's pulse plummeted as Harris elaborated on the consequences. She was too ashamed to seek assistance from her family, so she pursued odd jobs to support herself and her infant. She desired to protect me from the adversities she faced. Harris paused, his larynx heaving with emotion as he admitted, I was only informed by another individual. I promptly rushed to her upon discovering the truth, as she is my only child and I hold her in the highest regard. I returned her and her infant to their proper place. Harris continued. Yesterday, she recounted what happened at the store, how she couldn't afford both formula and diapers, and the desperation that had taken hold, as Ben absorbed the weight of this revelation. And then, without hesitation, you entered the situation. Harris's gratitude was profound as he locked gaze with Ben. You are unaware of the extent to which that act of kindness impacted both of us, particularly to her. You did not hesitate. You did not pose any inquiries. You have recently rendered assistance. I am unable to adequately convey my appreciation. Ben shifted uncomfortably, his face flushed with contrition. I simply followed the same course of action as any other individual. I observed an individual who was in need. Harris expressed his astonishment at the low number of individuals who would behave in the same manner as he did, managing to maintain a mild smile. My daughter expressed her gratitude independently. Enter. She is anticipating your arrival, he advised, directing Ben toward the estate's magnificence. Ben's mind was ablaze with ambiguity as he entered, and the elegance of the environs scarcely registered on his radar. Maria awaited him in the comfy sitting room. She tightened her grasp on her infant, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of gratitude and apprehension. Mr. Harris announced with pride, Mr. Foster, this is my daughter, Maria. Her voice wavered slightly as she advanced. I am grateful for your actions yesterday. It was of paramount importance. I am uncertain as to how I would have survived without your generosity. Ben experienced a sensation of modesty that enveloped him. It was insignificant. In reality, I simply followed the same course of action as any other individual. Maria resolutely shook her head. No, it was not insignificant. You did not merely extend assistance. You treated me with respect during a period in which I was unable to request it. That was of significance. Ben was deeply moved by her words. However, she interrupted him before he could respond, stating, We discovered that you had lost your job as a result of my actions when we returned to express our gratitude. I experienced an extremely unpleasant sensation. I did not desire that for you. Ben attempted to divert her attention by shrugging. It is not your responsibility. Incidents of this nature occur. Mr. Harris approached, extending a thin envelope. While we are unable to reverse the events that transpired, we are determined to rectify the situation. Ben hesitated, his breath caught in his throat as he opened it to discover a substantial accumulation of bills, amounting to more than the cost of diapers. He faltered, his tone tinged with apprehension. This is an excessive amount. The gesture was comforting and grounding as Harris placed a stable hand on Ben's shoulder. Consider it as financial assistance for your college expenses. We have been informed of your dedication and diligence. This is the least we can do. As he accepted the envelope, his hands trembled. I am uncertain as to how to express my gratitude. I am unable to. Harris responded with a smile that was reassuring. You can. You should. And we are adamant about it. Maria's irises were flooded with tenderness as she nodded in accord. Please, Mr. Foster, you are deserving of this. Mr. Harris continued, his voice both earnest and persuasive. And there's one more thing. You have been terminated from your position. However, I would like to extend an offer of employment at my organization. We are profoundly appreciative of the integrity and compassion you have exhibited. There is a position available for you, provided that you are willing." Ben's pulse pounded in response to those words, and his mind was consumed by a sense of disbelief. A position at Mr. Harris's organization? It appeared to be a dream. He had made numerous sacrifices in order to preserve his aspirations. However, he now had the chance to embark on a more promising future. At that moment, recollections resurfaced, and his mother's words of comfort reverberated in his mind. "Kindness will always find its way back to you, Ben. It may require some time, but it will eventually occur." He looked at the infant in Maria's arms and then back to Mr. Harris, attempting to comprehend what seemed unimaginable. Despite his belief in those words, "I am unable to articulate my gratitude," he finally said. His eyes beamed with amazement. Mr. Harris maintained his gaze as he stated, "You have earned it, Ben. You have demonstrated that kindness has the power to transform everything." If this touching narrative resonated with you, please consider demonstrating your support by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. We are able to continue sharing impactful stories that inspire and connect as a result of your engagement. We appreciate your time and look forward to our next video.